But first things first, I want to quickly go over what we did last week because it's very important that you know this process. So, who can tell me what is pollination?
The transfer of pollen from one plant to another.
Yeah, okay. And how does pollination occur? What do you need to happen for pollination to happen? What's the first step in pollination?
The first step in pollination is pollen is pollinators is attracted by a flower.
Yeah, okay. Let me question that, Minnie, okay? Because I think you're right, but there's one thing that needs to happen first, okay? Okay. So, Minnie, you're right, but I would say that's the second step. First step is the plant needs to make pollen, okay? Remember, the first step in pollination is one plant needs to have pollen. If one plant does not have pollen and the pollinator comes, then there's no pollen going to get stuck to the pollinator and the pollination process cannot occur from that plant. I know it sounds silly, but what can happen with a lot of plants is that they don't have the male and female parts. We spoke about cones and spores, but some plants don't even grow. Even if they're flowering plants, they cannot grow male and female parts. Reason is that the environment does not allow them to grow. We spoke about adaptations changing the way some plants grow their roots. Sometimes the environment is just not good enough that the flowering plant will not grow pollen. So we can actually start the pollination process. So the first part always needs to be that there is pollen grown on the anther. Then the pollinator comes in. Then the pollinator takes the pollen, brings it to the next plant. That's the pollination process, okay? We were talking about what's the next step after pollination. So you have pollination, you have a pollinator bringing pollen from one plant to another plant. What is the name of the next process which then makes a seed?
Fertilization. I said again.
I couldn't hear you, Emily, so thank you very much for repeating for me. Good stuff. Fertilization. What happens in the process of fertilization?
Is when pollen germ grow down the spaces inside the style.
Yes, okay, it grows down inside the style. Where inside the so the pollen hits the stigma at the very top, makes a tube all the way down the style. Why does it go down the style? Where is it going? Cool, Annie again.
It goes down the ovule or ovary.
Yeah, it goes down into the ovule, into the ovary. When it is in the ovule, what does the pollen do? What does it fix with? What does it mix together with? Hansel, what does the pollen mix with in the ovule?
Egg.
Yeah, exactly. So the pollen mixes with the egg in the ovule. The pollen goes all the way down, touches the top of the stigma up here. Imagine my head is the stigma and this is pollen. Pollen gets onto the top of my head, then works all the way down my face to where the ovule is, where the eggs are. Pollen goes all the way down and mixes with the eggs in the ovule, and then you get to form a seed. And that's how fertilization works. Fertilization is the process of the male part fusing with the egg, which is the female part. That's the first step. That's the second step, I guess, in creating a seed. Pollination always comes first. Pollination is a plant having male parts, pollen. Pollinator comes in, yummy nectar, give me that pollen, bring to another plant. That's pollination, first step. Second step is then fertilization, okay? So that's great. Okay, let's move on. So I'm gonna share my screen with you all and we're gonna have a look at about the plant.
If the root is long, it means it belongs to the rainforest.
Okay, but okay. Why do you think that? Remember what the root does, okay? The root sucks up water from the ground. What can you say about a root? How do you know?
Because the rainforest have lots of rain and it have lots of soil.
Okay, there we go. So you know that you have a long fibrous root. There's lots of water in the soil. There's a lot of soil. Good stuff. Okay. What have I said about a cactus? Who can tell me what they think a cactus roots? would look like? Yeah, Dino, go.
The root will come out of the side to take as much water as it can.
Okay, do you think the roots would grow down or do you think they'd grow sideways?
Sideways.
Yeah, sideways. Remember that's two really good examples, okay? So you've got cactus and you've got a big tree in the rainforest. They're both types of trees, they're both types of plants. The tree's got bark to help it defend itself. The cactus has got spines, but where they live is a very, very difficult place for them to survive, okay? The rainforest, I know it sounds like it's a very, very easy place to survive, but what do plants need? Plants need space, right? Do you think there's a lot of space in the rainforest? No, there's plants everywhere, billions and billions and billions of plants. Your roots have to go somewhere which is going to allow you to get as much water as possible. So Bill saying that they're going to grow down because there's lots of soil, yeah, that makes sense. You know, they can't spread their roots out because there's plants everywhere. They won't get any water. So luckily they live in a place where there's a lot of water and a lot of soil which they can go down and bury their roots in to get water out of it. A cactus, on the other hand, if it rains in a desert, it's going to evaporate. It's going to evaporate very, very fast. Cactus want their roots to be close to the surface to get as much water as possible when they can get it. If they don't get it, they dead. They bye cactus. But this is what you can tell just by looking at roots, okay? So let's have a look at some examples and try to get you thinking, okay? Temperature is a really good one as well. Where the temperature is can tell you a lot about a particular plant. We're going to look at leaves and you'll be able to see there. Here we have two really good examples of what we just spoke about, okay? So if we were to compare plant adaptations and using the cactus as the example here. So here we can see the cactus tree. We can see it's growing up. We can see it's got this kind of waxy, stemmy bark. It's also got spines on the side of it to make sure birds don't eat it. But the major thing to look at here is the roots. So look at how the roots have grown. As we said, that you're in a desert and you're trying to get as much water as you possibly can. You know that in a desert, if the rain falls, it's not going to go into the soil. It's too hot. It's just going to sit there. It's going to be very, very close to the top. So what the cactus has done is said, you know what? I need to get water. I need to get water as much as I possibly can. I will grow these roots this way. I will grow them sideways and I'll grow them close to the surface. Obviously, the roots need to do their function, which is to anchor the plant, to keep it still, and also to get as much water as possible. The way it's going to do this is by growing outward, as you can see. Whereas on the other side, if you take, this is an oak tree. If you look at the roots of the oak tree, you can see that, yes, okay, it's gone a little bit sideways, but they've also gone straight down as well. They are growing straight down in order to, as Bill said, use the amount of soil that's there, but also take up the water that's coming into that soil too. Now, a cactus is not as big as an oak tree. Let's confirm that, okay? So an oak tree will have longer roots. Who's seen the pictures of the Cambodian temples where the roots of the trees have come out, and the roots of the trees are even covered in bark as well? Who's seen that before? Just give me a thumbs up if you've seen it. Let me get you a picture. There's a really good example. So you can all see this picture, right? So from that picture, you can see that even though the roots have come out of ground, the roots are still covered in bark as well. Why do you think the roots of an oak tree or a really big tree are barky as well? Why do you think there's bark on the roots? Yeah, Dina, why do you think the roots also have bark?
I think because some animal in the ground, like worms, can eat it.
Okay, so yeah, some worms can eat it, but how big is a worm and how big are one of those plants or one of those roots? You think a tiny little worm is going to be able to eat through one of them? Maybe, maybe not. Who can give me another reason? Who can think of something else as to why a tree will have barky roots like this? Hermione, I'm pretty sure that's Lucy. Lucy, why do you think that some trees will have barky roots as well?
Because when the tree is big, then the root could hold the tree down.
Yeah, I'll take that as an answer. I think that's a really good one. So I'm going to take both yours and Dino's answers. Remember that when a plant is young and small, it doesn't have bark. It only grows the bark, right? So Dino, maybe you're right that maybe that when it is growing, it grows thick roots when it's young to stop worms from eating it when they can actually eat the roots. And then as Lucy said, that when the plant gets older and it's big and it's huge, and it's this big, huge tree, you don't want to have like thin roots, do you? You just see a lot of trees falling down. So we need to have, once again, thick, barky roots. So yes, it works as a defensive structure, but it also works as a place where, you know, it needs to keep the tree growing and working. So if we were to look at this picture again, we can see that, yes, the cactus roots spread out. It also keeps it in place. It keeps it in place in a different way. And here we can see this tree spreads down, it goes straight down, it keeps the tree that way. Now, have a look at these two. Now, I know on the right-hand side, these roots are together, but remember there is a lot of dirt there. Who can tell me what is the differences and what is the same things between those two pictures? Laura, tell me something that is the same about those two plants. Ava, what's the same about them? Lily?
One is a flowering plant and one is a non-flowering plant.
Okay, we'll jump to the differences then. Okay, I asked for things that are the same, but we'll do differences anyway. Okay, so yes, one is a flowering plant, one is a non-flowering plant. Now here is a question for you all. Why do some plants have flowers and why do some plants not have flowers? Mr. Pizza.
Because some plants live in areas that don't have much like wind, water, and insects, so they need the spores to fly in the sky so they can reproduce more.
Pizza, that was an excellent answer. Very good. Good job, buddy. Excellent answer. So as Pizza said, what happens is that we've already said the plants will change their structures. They will change the way they look. They'll change the things that they do based on their environment. They adapt to survive in their environment, okay? So in this situation, plants who are living in places where there's not that many insects, there's not that many hummingbirds, there's no way for them to get pollen from one place to another. The plant over a long time has said, actually, do you know what there is a lot of up here? There's a lot of wind. I'm going to use the wind. Now, obviously plants are not like humans. We would realize this very quickly. A plant took a very long time for them to realize that they can use the wind to pollinate each other. And then they had to decide the way that they were going to use this wind. They decided, okay, well, let's make cones. Cones is a great idea. Okay, let's make cones. Or let's make spores. So all of them have worked in a very, very long amount of time. They've adapted over a very long amount of time based on their environment, okay? What are the environments or the habitats of a non-flowering plant? Bill, I think you're not going, correct?
I think the non-flowering plants have no rain.
Okay, has no rain, okay.
But they have sunlight.
They have sunlight, okay. Maybe, who can think of another example? Okay, let's try this, okay. Let's think about cones. Who can tell me where do cones grow? Elsa.
Cones grow on pine trees.
Okay, cones grow on pine trees, okay. Where in the world do pine trees grow? Let's think about the leaf. Okay, yeah, Bill, where do pine trees grow?
In sunshine.
In sunshine. In sunshine.
In
No.
dry places.
No, okay. Minnie, where do pine trees grow? Where in the world?
Pine trees grow in where have many winds, so the cones can pollinate.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you the answer to this. Pine trees tend to grow in the north of the world, okay? What you have on a pine tree as well that will probably help you is pine trees have needles. What are needles again? Okay, who can tell me what's a needle? Bill.
It's a tiny leaf.
Yeah, it's a really thin leaf, right? Why did we say that plants need needles? What do they need needles for?
So they can so they don't lose many water.
Yeah, perfect. Good job. So plants have needles to make sure they do not lose a lot of water. If you take a big leaf like this, it's going to lose a lot more water than a leaf like this. So what we said is that pine trees, they grow in the north of the world where it's pretty cold. All right. Water doesn't necessarily come in the form of rain. It'll come in the form of snow, which is on the ground, which freezes over a very long time, and then the plants can take water from them. But when this is happening, like a cactus, a needle has stopped water leaving the leaf. We know what condensation is. For plants, it's called transpiration. So the smaller the leaf, the less transpiration happens, the less plant loses water. Okay, so we're looking at these two plants, right? As we said, that yes, they both have stems, they both have leaves, they both have roots, but they're different in the way that they have decided to go about their reproductive cycle. They cannot use pollinate. Well, the flowering plant uses pollination, whereas the spore plant uses water to transfer the spores from structure to structure. Okay, so that is how we look and compare. Now, let me ask a question: which method, pollination or using water and the spore method, do you think is better? There is no yes or no to this this question. They both are working for where they are, right? We spoke about adaptations. We said that they are the things that help animals and plants survive. If you have one plant that is pollinating and it's surviving, then pollination is the best method for that particular plant. If you have a spore method and the spore method is working for that particular plant in that particular place, then the adaptation is right for that particular place. And that's what you need to think about. You need to think about, okay, what is right for that place? Is one thing better than the other? No, it doesn't make a difference. Look at this example again, okay? So here you have the cactus with the long roots, and you also have the tree with the roots as well. They both got roots, they're both in different places, but they're both surviving well. So again, the same principle applies, is with the cactus roots grow sideways. That is the best thing for that particular place. That's why cactus can survive there. The oak tree, the roots go down, they're thick in their stem, they're thick, barky roots. Make sure that the big tree doesn't fall over as well. Again, this is the best possible solution for this area. That's how the adaptation works. That's how the plants are able to survive, okay? So this is the way I want you to think about them, is why are they doing this? Why do they do this? If you can think about why a plant has done something, the way it's grown, what it does in terms of pollination, fertilization, the way its roots have grown, the way the leaves have gone, everything about the plant can tell you something about where that plant is from. So another quick example is, look at these leaves, okay? So we've got waxy leaves. Why do we need waxy leaves? What's the function of a leaf? The leaf is to make food, right? It's not to absorb water. Waxy leaves will make sure water runs off the leaf, doesn't get stuck there, leaves the leaf, goes onto the ground. The plant can then suck up the water. What about narrow leaves? We spoke about that before. They don't lose as much water. What about a long leaf? What do you think a long leaf is for? Medelpi.
Some plants have long leaves so they could attract more sunlight.
Yeah, cool. They've got long leaves to get more sunlight.